Hi everyone, welcome to our last NHVR Solutions webinar for 2020. We're here today with some of our team in Brisbane and Queensland coming to you. We're going to be talking to you about release 8.1 today. We will go through and do some demos, the highlighted features, as per always go through our roadmap and let you know when our next webinar it will be on to and how to get in touch. With us today, we've got John, myself, Steve and Nathan, and Carly. Thanks everyone for joining us. Okay, let's get straight into what we've got in release 8.1.
Thank you, Jilly. For this, we've got here the option to override the automated version of the refusal notice to help stop incorrect automated refusal notices being sent to customers. We now have in the portal that they can provide a manual notice that'll override that one that NHVR can do. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Seeing once the decision has been refused, the facilitators can go into the case management, go to application refused, refused by road manager, and the generate draft button is still available. And previously they could just do save and an automated one would go out to the customers, but now the users can go into their file, add a manual one that's been completed. Might be a moment. Have it available, save, correspondence goes out to the customer, and in the timeline when it goes back, the manual one is the one that is seen by the customer. So it just makes things a lot easier for the access team upstairs. Thanks very much, Jilly.
And we'll move on to our next demo for this release, which is about vehicle standards. Over to you, Steve.
Thanks, Shelley. So this feature is to work towards some automation and efficiency around filling out applications. We've had feedback from customers and also from the vehicle standards team that the all-terrain crane applications, often they're multiple axles, anywhere up to 9 axles, and the information for most of the axles can be the same. So rather than getting the users to fill that in on an individual basis, we've now built in a feature that will allow the information that gets put in for the first axle to be copied through to the other axles, but also then to allow those pre-populated axles to be edited independently of the one that's been filled in. So I'll share my screen and give a demonstration of what that looks like. On the screen here, you'll see now a all-terrain crane 7-axle application. So if I fill in this first axle information, and you need to fill in on the left-hand side from top to bottom of the questions there. So if you put in the information that you need there, and any of the information that you want to copy through to the other fields. So then you choose active steer and the number of tyres. And you'll see that it populates through to the remainder of the axles with the same information. The things that don't copy through are spacing, because obviously from the first axle there isn't an axle ahead of that to have a spacing, so you still will need to come and fill in the spacings for each of the axles. And also if there's something that is different in here, say there was a tyre size that was different on one axle, not compared to the others, you can come in here and you can edit these independently, and you'll notice that they don't update into the rest of the fields. If you make a mistake in the first axle when you're filling it out, there is a way to be able to clear that. You can just remove the component, add the component again and start from the beginning, and that will allow you to have a second attempt at putting in the information if you got something incorrect that you want to be copied through to all the axles. And the other one to remember is that all-terrain cranes, there is another category, all-terrain cranes with dollies. If you're using one of those applications and when you're filling it out, the information will only copy in the crane axles, because the dolly axles and tyre sizes are often different to what the crane is, and there's a smaller number of those, so we haven't pre-populated those. We're just working on the all-terrain cranes, the ones that have got the multiple axles. And so hopefully that'll help with filling in those applications in a bit quicker amount of time. Thanks for that, and I'll hand back to Jilly.
Over to me now, and to Carly. We're going to provide an update on the customer satisfaction survey that we're currently underway.
Yeah, thanks, Jilly. So we currently have our customer survey up, which is also gone out this time to road managers, basically allowing you to share your experience with the portal. So you may have spotted this in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Basically, it'll appear as a pop-up once you've completed a successful task. And it'll ask you just to rate us on a scale as to how happy you are and then ask for a brief amount of text feedback. You don't need to provide text feedback, and you don't need to provide any feedback at all if you don't want, but any feedback that we receive is really helpful for us to make any improvements to the portal. Thank you very much to everyone who has filled this in so far. We've had lots of responses, and yeah, really appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to now hand over to John, who will take us through the roadmap. It was nearly finished 2020, so the start of 2021.
Great, thanks, Julie. So this year has really been about closing and completing the work around accreditation of vehicle standards, and you can see that we've continued to do some maintenance on the accreditation of vehicle standards features that we delivered almost this time last year. Access, we continue to do some work on as well, and into the new year we have a few new features planned for access and accreditation. For accreditation, you'll be aware of some emails that have gone out through the portal about the new NHVS business rules that are coming into effect early next year. And supporting that, there'll be an incident reporting feature which will allow anyone really, from a public point of view, to be able to report any minor crashes or incidents involving accredited heavy vehicles or even accredited drivers. So that information will be passed back pretty much directly through to the accreditation holders. From access and for accreditation, probably a long-awaited feature is the ability to pay by other means other than through credit card. So we'll be looking at additional payment options in the new year. And there'll also be some automation on the back end to look at the way we deal with refunds and making that process a lot more efficient for everyone. PBS, we have the beta underway at the moment, and that will continue into January, where we're looking to go live on the 29th of Jan with our first tranche for PBS, and that will enable the submission of design approval applications and vehicle approval applications for the first time through the portal, and the ability to track those cases, in fact all of the cases that may be in progress with the PBS team. And of course, in parallel to that, we'll be continuing to work on the full digitisation of the PBS business and the application and case management processes. The Smart Forms Alpha we'll be looking to move into in March and look to go live with that in April, and then we'll be looking at the full case management functionality to take us through to the end of the financial year in June. Along with that, we've got a lot of work that's happening with the APIs, and that will provide an interface not just for PBS certifiers and assessors, but also for anyone really. And we've got a lot of interest, I know, from our road management community, but it's also open to heavy vehicle operators who want to tap into our system and the data that's there to make that more efficient in gathering that for your own systems, and even using the same functionality that we'll be giving to PBS to submit applications, potentially for access or even accreditation. There's also work we're doing on the digital asset management. So that's really targeting local governments and providing assessments that's the Commonwealth for funding for structures, bridges and culverts. You'll see that there's a layer up already in the route planner for assets that will provide information on the assets that are being assessed. Coming into the new year, we'll be providing some functionality for the road managers, particularly local governments, to be able to manage that information themselves. And that information will then automatically flow through to that layer with more information about the condition of the asset and the vehicles in particular that can go through that asset, or where there might need to be consent requests provided. So it's an important piece of work, hoping that will help oversize over mass operators in particular to be able to understand upfront where they can move and get a bit more upfront understanding and knowledge of what the key routes might be and what the routes that may need assessment might be to help better plan. So the first of our inquiry-based route planning solutions enabled there. So looking forward to the new year. A lot of things coming across the board for access accreditation, vehicle standards and PBS. But probably as importantly, you'll begin to see updates and changes to the help centre, our support systems. Kylie and Julie just went through some of the updates we've made to the surveys. This is the second round of surveys we've had with customers, operators. That feedback is coming in and being prioritised by our business areas. And you'll see more of that flowing through coming into the new year with features and improvements specifically targeting operators and manufacturers from a vehicle standards perspective, and progressively certifiers and assessors once we move into a more live and operational system for PBS. Thanks, everyone.
Look, thanks so much, John. As you can see, we're speeding up into the new year rather than slowing down. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. Just as we finish up with that roadmap for this year, we'd like to shout out to everyone who helped us from the start of the year all the way through to the end, offering us their time, support, and also their feedback to help us improve the portal as we deliver it. We're not going to be having a webinar in January. You get a month off. So we'll see you for our next webinar on the 17th of February in 2021. If you need to get in touch with us, please do so. We're still going to be available to support you during the holiday period. And lastly, we'd just like to wish you all a safe and happy holidays with you and all your friends and family. And thank you again for all of your support in 2020.